Hey everybody, it's GobletX and welcome back to some more Magic Arena, and today I'm going to be drafting the December 2022 Arena Cube format. For those who don't know, the Arena Cube draft is a format where instead of drafting from a specific set's boosters, we're going to be drafting from a curated list of the strongest cards on the entirety of Arena. For that reason, the event is going to be phantom. We're not going to be keeping anything that we draft today. We're simply going to be competing for the prizes on the tracker and having some fun in the meantime. So the event is 600 gems or 4,000 gold, and in order to break even, you're wanting to hit at least 5 wins or better. And no matter what your win rate, you are going to get 3 random cards, including 1 rare at least, all the way up to potentially 2 guaranteed rares and a bunch of gold to go along with it. So that's the event, that's the entry fee, that's what we're doing today. Without further ado, let's just hop into the draft. Alright, here we are ready for pack 1, pick 1 in the return to the Arena Cube draft, and we have a ton of incredibly powerful cards as always in these Arena Cube packs. Kind of get to just choose your favorite sort of cards early on in Arena Cube drafts. It's a lot of really good stuff in white. I really want to take Adeline, Resplendent Cathar. I think this card is just pretty busted. It's an army in a can, a very good standalone threat that will leave behind a bunch of 1/1s later in the game if you're in a good position. And the vigilance is huge. The amount of toughness and power you get off this card for only 3 mana is often quite big as well. Really, really big fan of it. That's probably my favorite card in the pack, the one that I consider to be probably the strongest for its mana cost. But again, there's stuff all over in this pack that's quite good. Vraska, Golgari Queen, of course, Planeswalkers are always powerful, and this one gives you decent removal with the -3 ability for 4 mana, so that's a nice one. The biggest flaw that I see in taking Adeline is there is a good quantity of other white cards in this pack, meaning other players might pick those, but you know, some of these aren't like super high picks, like Lion Sash, and Rabble Rousing's a tiny bit slow. It is very powerful though. So I think I'm still just going to stick to Adeline. It's my favorite card in the pack. Hopefully don't get too many people fighting with us over white. So we get past an Elesh Norn Grand Cenobite, which is a pretty ridiculous card. It is a lot of mana for a very aggressive strategy if we want to be like mono white or Boros aggro, but if we're any other white deck, Adeline's going to fit super well into it, and Elesh Norn is a very powerful late game play. So that is a super solid follow-up. It's also a Goblin Chainwhirler that's very dedicated to the mono red strategy with 3 red symbols in its mana cost, very restrictive there, but a super powerful card. Vivian, of course, also very powerful as Planeswalkers always are. Curious Obsession takes over the game really quickly, draws you a ton of cards. Lots of incredible stuff as always, but I'm going to take Elesh Norn. It's a very good follow-up to Adeline. Pick 3, we see another Vivian, a different Vivian in this pack, so that's a little interesting. Seeing 2 of those in a row. Do also see Phyrexian Missionary here. Very good card for white-black, and even if we're just in white, this is a 2 mana 2/3 lifelink, which is nothing to scoff at. Kind of like that, just cutting white out of the pack still. Some pretty strong aggro red cards like Bloodthirsty Adversary and Magda. Yeah, a lot of solid stuff here, but I'm going to roll with Phyrexian Missionary. Alright, things are going really well for just sticking to white, because I think the strongest card in the pack, at least one of them, is Restoration of a Gonjo here. 3 mana, you're just getting a lot of stuff off of this card for only 3 mana. You're pulling a Plains out of your deck, putting it into your hand, so essentially drawing a card there. Then you get to discard a card and return a permanent with mana value 2 or less from your grave to the battlefield. Then you get a 3/4 Vigilance that creates 1/1s every time it attacks or blocks, kind of a miniature version of Adeline Resplendent Cathar there, so I like Restoration of Agonjo a lot. Also, big fan of Murderous Rider. It's a removal spell and a good creature, all on 1 card. Remorseful Cleric is nice. It's just a cheap, evasive, aggressive card. And then Approach the Second Sun is a good win condition for a more controlling strategy. Don't think that's where we're headed here. Every card we've taken so far is a solid creature. Doesn't seem like we need an Approach of the Second Sun kind of win condition. And more incredible aggressive white cards in this pack to choose from, so I'm probably just going to stick to it. It's nice and easy. Intrepid Adversary is nice because it fits into your curve well at 2 mana. It's just a 2 mana 3/1 lifelink, but it's also a good top deck later in the game, being able to dump however much mana you have. into making this a very big Anthem effect, buffing your whole board. Clarion Spirit's really good if you have a lot of like 1 mana cards. This is great for the mono white deck that ends up with like 4 or 5 1-drop creatures, maybe a Ranger of Eos to tutor them up, because then it's really easy to cast 2 spells in 1 turn. So Clarion Spirit's also incredible, and Maul of the Skyclaves is good at turning pretty much any creature into a pretty efficient, evasive win condition. So love all 3 of these a lot. It's actually a bit of a hard choice. Our curve is going to be a little wacky if I do this, but I think I am actually going to take Maul over anything else. The big issue that we're having right now is now we have 3 3-mana plays already, and just 1 2-mana play, 1 7-mana play. The curve's a bit awkward. So we do have that Phyrexian Missionary that gets a lot better if we have black in our deck, so Elas Ilkor is not that off color here. 2 mana 2/2 Death Touch, gain a life as creatures enter our battlefield, and make our opponents lose life as our creatures die. Seems solid, but Ephemerate has a lot of good synergies in the cube. We don't have anything that works with it right now, but there are a lot of creatures in multiple different colors, but even just in white, that will have good enter the battlefield effects that we can redo with Ephemerate, so that seems like an okay pickup. Alright, mono white decks can make really good use of Invoke Justice. This is kind of just a massive impact for 5 mana. You're going to return your best permanent from the grave to the battlefield and put 4+1/+1 counters on your creatures wherever you want them. So if you're bringing back something that costs 5 mana or more, you're just getting an incredible deal with this card. Love Invoke Justice for mono white, and every card we've taken so far has been white, so we could end up there. And yeah, Kyodai's nice. Selfless Savior is also nice. So it looks like a good sign that white is relatively open, seeing all those good cards still there. Now History of Benalia and Blade Historian, 2 very good white cards again. Blade Historian is more color restrictive, so we would be like 100% committing to mono white if we take this, if we have a deck with both Invoke Justice and Blade Historian. But I like how it fits in the curve better than History of Benalia. But History of Benalia is generally an incredibly powerful card. 3 mana for 2 2/2s and then buff them both for 1 turn. This might be dumb, but I'm just going to go History of Benalia and we'll just be all 3 drops the deck. So this pack had an Esper Sentinel and a Lion Sash and another white card. So 2 white cards did actually get drafted out of this, but we did get one of them back. Don't remember what the white card other than Esper Sentinel was outside of this Lion Sash, so I don't know how disappointed I should be that the other white card didn't come back. No way we can play a triple red card. If we're playing another color, it's going to be a little bit of it, not like being able to hit 3 mana of that color. I guess black is, again, slightly more likely than anything else, so we can take this Demonic Pact, but I don't think that's going to happen. Aether Sphere Harvester can fit into any deck. It's a fine vehicle. Nothing magically exciting or anything like that. Take some more black cards. Alright. Life of Toshiro Umezawa now is the pickup. Okay, well, maybe not mono white, because you can play everything that I've drafted except Invoke Justice and be like black-white. Could be that direction. For pack 2, pick 1. Ooh, we do have a Lurrus of the Dream Den. 3 mana for a 3/2 lifelinker. Lets all of your permanents that cost mana value 2 or less be recast from your graveyard. Really, really good with any of our 2 mana or less costing permanents. So we could draft this and try to take a lot of 1 and 2 mana permanents. It's also really easy to cast for our black-white deck or mono-white if we head in that direction. Lurrus seems like a really solid choice here. Teferi is a really, really powerful controlling card, but our cards don't look that controlling outside of like Elesh Norn. So I don't think we're heading in a Teferi direction. Very great red aggro stuff with Bone Crusher, Pyromancer, but Lurrus just seems like kind of the hotness here. I don't think we're going to try to draft enough 1 and 2 mana cards to play this as our companion, but we can just play this in the main deck and still be very happy with it. This is a new Brothers War card here, a 4 mana 3/4. Your opponent can't cast spells or activate abilities during your turn. And whenever they attack, you get a 1/1 soldier where X is the number of soldiers you control. It's interesting. 4 mana is kind of a lot for that in a super aggro deck, but it would be my only soldier as well, so it's not like I'd be getting a million. It seems fine. I mean, I don't think we're going to be some kind of reanimator combo deck with Priest of Fell Rites here. That seems unlikely. And Inquisition of Kozilek is okay. I mean, it's a solid way to interact with your opponent's hand, but it's another one of these cards that's really bad top deck late in the game. But very good to just, play it turn 1, but I feel like most of the time turn 1 I'd rather just play a creature. I don't know, I'll take Mural for now. Hoping to get a lot of 1-mana creatures, especially if we see a Ranger of Eos. I don't think I take Ranger of Eos just assuming that I can find 1-mana creatures when I have none in my deck right now. That seems wrong. We probably just take Thalia, Guardian of Thraben, a good card for an aggressive strategy that doesn't have a very high non-creature count. 2 mana, 2/1 first striker. It makes all non-creatures cost 1 more to cast. We'll take it. Junji's also solid. More of a game-ending kind of late game play. But I'll take another great 2-drop aggro creature. Go with our kind of Luris plan. Alright, we did get one 1-mana creature. It's one of them that I like quite a bit. 1 mana for a 2/1, and it actually works pretty well later in the game because you can play this and have it protect one of your other cards. Scoop that up. Don't think we're a farewell deck, not trying to do a board wipe. This has got to be a new card. This is like one of these new Brothers War Alchemy cards or something. This seems efficient. 2 mana, -3/-3 to a creature, or -3 loyalty from a planeswalker. Maybe gain 2 life. I guess I'll just play around with this. Maybe Hive of the Eye Tyrant or Fabled Passage, or even Banishing Slash. Some main deck Artifact Enchantment Hate is better, but I'll play around with this new card. I haven't seen it before. Another 1-drop creature in case we wield a Ranger of Eos could be good. Could also just go for a Danto Vanguard because it's very good if you're super aggro. But Thraben Inspector is also just a really nice deal. 1 mana, 1/2, get that on the board. Get that ready to block all your opponent's 1/1s or trump later in the game, and also get a card off of it, get that clue token. Super fine card, makes our ephemerate a tiny bit better. Not like a ton, but a tiny bit. Ashnod is another 1-mana creature if we wield a Ranger of Eos, but if we don't, it's not very good. Field of the Dead is super, super good if you pick up a ton of non-basic lands, but it's too late to jump on that train. Might just be on Realm Cloak Giant here. Have 1 random Wrath in our deck, 1 random board wipe. Not super certain on that one. Spirited Companion is a great enter the battlefield effect to redo, and there's not much else in the pack. There's a Mutavault for a very strong creature land here, but it's probably best in like mono white. Our mana is going to be a little difficult if we go black-white, because we want to have a ton of planes, but we also want to be able to potentially hit like double black. So I don't really want to run any colorless lands, even if they have very good abilities like Mutavault. And Immortal Sun's like a good like late game play, but I've got a few of those, and I don't even know if I'll be running them, or if I'll be going really low to the ground, really low curve. I don't like Duress, Pilgrim's Eye, or Hostile Negotiations. It's the only on-color cards. Did wield a Ranger of Eos, so there you go. And we do have 2 1-mana creatures, the Bodyguard and the Thraben Inspector. We still have another pack to go after this. Got our full pack 3 to choose from. Deck is really coming together here, just like black-white, kind of aristocrats aggro stuff. Main thing I think we're missing out on is interaction, so any more just good unconditional removal is something I would love to pick up. I think that's the biggest thing we're lacking. Outside of that, we have a little bit of like really big late game impact, and primarily just a bunch of really good aggressive creatures. Very solid plays for their mana cost. Army in a Can kind of cards like Adeline, Restoration of Eiganjo, History of Analia, multiple threats off 1 card. Luris is a good threat that also recasts a bunch of stuff in your grave. So really good stuff there. So we're really looking for removal more than anything else, and I do like Kaya a lot as being that removal spell that doubles as a win condition. So you play this as a 5-mana sorcery and exile an on-land permanent, and then if your opponent can't deal with Kaya, then she is going to close the game out, as most Planeswalkers do. So this seems like a pretty solid pickup to me. It fills one of the things that I'm looking for, and as an added bonus gives me a pretty high impact late game play. So big fan of that. Seal Away is also fine removal we could take instead. Don't think I'd take the Intervention instead, because this is a little too narrow, only destroying artifacts or enchantments as removal. It's a very high impact card though. But Kaya, the Inexorable, it's gonna be. I'm not a very big fan of Fateful Absence as removal because it does let your opponent draw a card, giving them that clue token, so you're down a card when you play this. You discard one card. You discard your Fateful Absence to kill the one card that they played, and they draw a card. So you 2 for 1 in your opponent's favor. They're up a card when you use this. So you need to be really aggressive for it to be good, so it doesn't feel like you're down a card. But it might be worth it again just because we're so low on removal, and the only other options, Restoration Angel and AO, are both pretty great, but yeah, just in case. I'm going to take Fateful Absence here. I just really want to have a lot of interaction generally in cube formats. People can do some really explosive things if you're not having all your bases covered. Making sure you can interact. Well, I don't think I'm going to end up playing anything in here. Solemn's a little slow for this deck we're playing, and Benalish Marshal. Triple White's a very hard sell, but I think Benalish Marshal's probably the closest to getting run. I'm not going to play a 60-card deck for Yorion. Not a huge fan of Ebon Death. So we'll take the Benalish Marshal. Here's some cheap removal, but it only gets rid of cheap cards, so it's very conditional. Lunarch Veteran's just okay. I do like Noxious Gearhulk a lot. Kind of a bit of mana here, but I think we'll just start turning into a more mid-range deck that's a little higher on the mana curve than I was thinking at the start. You know, at the start of the draft, I just grabbed all these 2-3 mana creatures, and I'm like, alright, let's go. 1-drop, 2-drop, 3-drop, super aggro, but by the end of this pack, you know, taking a Kaya, taking a Gearhulk, start to kind of make a more mid-rangey deck here. Solid amount of stuff at every level of the curve. Good stuff to do mid-game, late game, and early game as well. Sanctuary Warden's a huge win condition. Gigantic flyer that's hard to kill that draws you cards. Or Null Priest of Oblivion, which is a little more flexible, being a 2-mana 2/1 lifelinking menace card, or a later game being a reanimator spell. Like both of those a lot. I think I'm just going to take more big late game bomby stuff, get more mid-rangey here. Thoughtseize is kind of the better Inquisition of Kozilek, being able to get anything out of your opponent's hand, so it's a little bit of a better draw late in the game than Inquisition is. Yeah, the other options are Crypt Breaker or Agadeem's Awakening, which are both solid, but not super exciting. Jadar, but we don't have anything to use the Decayed Zombies on, at least as far as I know, so I'll just take like a Charming Prince here. Flexible card. Sap Vitality's decent removal, but we're going to be much heavier into white than black. Oh, I really like Welcoming Vampire, but there's also Go for the Throat and Valorous Stance, which is super hard, because these are both great removal spells, great pieces of interaction, but Welcoming Vampire turns all of our cheap creatures or all of our weak creatures into card draw as long as it's on board. I think I'm just going to take Go for the Throat, though. High on removal here so we can make it to all these big 6-drops we just started picking up more often. Monument actually kind of slaps. That's really in mono white. I don't know, I remember this being a little better than I gave it credit for, but maybe still not great. Mana Tithe also is kind of funny. Could take it just because it's hilarious. Sure, I'm going to run a Mana Tithe and just have some fun with it. Take a Sanguine Brushstroke here. It's just a Blood Artist for 1 more mana, but it comes with a blood token. I mean, Blood Artist is good. Double black might be a little hard at 3 mana. Don't know if I'm like definitely going to run that. but it's the best card in that pack for us. And for the rest of the pack, we're just taking stuff to throw into the sideboard. And we can get to the deck building. Alright, so we have to cut 15 cards out of this deck. So we've got our work cut out for us here. I think what I want to do, as I said before, is turn this into a more mid-rangey pile. So some of the stuff that leans incredibly aggressive or incredibly controlling is stuff I kind of want to cut out of here. So I don't think we need this many 1-drops, and Ranger of Eos is the kind of card that if you have less than 3 1-mana plays, it's going to be pretty bad. So I think that's probably going to be the first cut here. Probably cut one of those and then one of these 1-drops. Not in love with the Lunarch Veteran, but its ability to come back later. So you get a 1-mana 1/1 flyer, you get a 2-mana, or you get a 1-mana 1/1 and a 2-mana 1/1 flyer out of it is fine. Kind of similar to Thraben Inspector. This is like a 1/2 plus you draw a card. This is a 1/1 plus you draw a 1/1 flyer off of it later. Add up all the life gain throughout the game that could be worth kind of a card. It's probably one of these two getting cut. I'm not super sure which. I think I'll go with Thraben Inspector here. I think I want to just try to cut a lot of the ETB stuff as well. Get rid of the Ephemerate here, because this is going to be primarily just to try to counter a removal spell, which is a little narrow when we don't have a bunch of powerful enter the battlefield effects. Charming Prince can still scry or gain life even when we don't have a good enter the battlefield effect on board, so I'm kind of cool with that. Lion Sash is like a very slow version of Scavenging Ooze, not in love with that. Phyrexian Missionary is a pretty slow card, but it does give us something good to do on turn 4, which we don't have a lot of. We don't have a lot of 4-mana plays, so that's fine. Spirited Companion is very fine, but super filler. The Life of Toshiro Umezawa as well, both of these. Very good in Kamigawa Neon Dynasty draft, but when it comes to cube power level, neither of these are anything to write home about. I mean, Life of Toshiro Umezawa is disgusting if we draw this against a mono red aggro. Like, maybe we get to -1/-1, they're 2/1 haste, or they're 1/1, or whatever they're beating us down with, and then gain 2 life, and then have a 2/3 blocker. Like, this is insanely good against mono red, but not very exciting against grindier decks. Not actually in love with Thalia in here anymore when we stop leaning so aggro, because we're going to have a lot of non-creature spells in here, probably somewhere around like 7 or 8 in the deck. Plus, some of our creatures are even non-creature spells like Restoration of Eiganjo and Life of Toshiro Umezawa, so Thalia actually hits us pretty badly. Speaking of, Restoration of Eiganjo is great, no reason to cut that. Same with Adeline. Marshall is quite strong, but a little hard to cast, and I am going to get a little lower on the creature count, so I think I'll be cutting that. I actually do kind of like Woe Strider here. It's got some fun synergies with Disturb cards like Lunarch Veteran and Reanimation like Luris. So I kind of like leaving in Woe Strider and Luris. 4 mana, I don't think Miro looks particularly good to me. But just for curve reasons, in the interest of having 4 mana stuff to play, we'll leave them in for now. But I could see this card not ending up being that exciting. Yorian's not that exciting either, but I mean, a 5-mana 4/5 flyer is a 5-mana 4/5 flyer. Fills out the curve, gives us a flying threat, evasive threat. Seems fine to me. A lot of 6 and 7 mana stuff. Elesh Norn is just a completely busted card. I'm definitely going to keep that in. I don't know if I want a full-on board wipe in here. It's probably fine, but what else are we cutting? I'm definitely leaving in Gearhulk. I absolutely love that card. I think Elesh Norn and Gearhulk are my favorite 6-drops here, 6/7 drops, so maybe we just cut these. Sanctuary Warden and Realm Cloak Giant, which feels a little weird because they are very strong cards. I just don't want like 4, 6, and 7 mana plays. I cut all of this. I still get to cut 7 more cards. That would put me at 10 non-creatures. Okay, I might actually want to cut 8 or 9 of these non-land cards and put some of those creatures back in. We'll see. So for non-land cards, what do we have that's bad? Demonic Pact is a little sketchy when you don't have a way to get rid of it. We might have one or two, but I'm not seeing like a ton of obvious ways to do so. I don't even see a single one. We probably have one that I'm just not noticing, but you want a lot of ways to get rid of this, to get rid of the risk of this card. And even when I've had a million ways to get rid of it, I haven't been that impressed by this card. I really wish that this was an enter the battlefield trigger. Like the moment you play it, it impacts the game and during your upkeep. Because I've actually found this to be a little too slow, even when you know you can get rid of it. So I'm definitely going to get rid of Demonic Pact here. Invoke Justice is still pretty hard to cast, but this is very much a late game play, because it's all about returning the best card in your graveyard to the battlefield, so you want to wait till the graveyard's full, so it's kind of okay that it's such a restrictive white cost. We could still run that card, so I'm not guaranteed to be cutting that. I don't love Hostile Negotiation. It's kind of just 4 mana, draw 3, lose 3 life. There's a million words there, but it's basically what it is. You get to play a mind game with your opponent. History of Benalia is actually another creature. Oh yeah, and this doesn't count your sagas, so that 13 creatures is actually 14, 15 when you count our 2 sagas, and 16 when you count History of Benalia, so we're actually good on creature count. We just cut 6 non-creature cards and we'll call it a day. Yeah, I love History of Benalia. I'm going to keep that in. Sanguine Brushstroke is also a creature. It's a Blood Artist, but I might cut that. Especially if I'm going to run Invoke Justice, because then we can cut down on our black sources to where the only card in our deck that needs 2 black mana is a 6 mana play, which means that having a ratio of 2/3 of our sources being plains is going to be fine, because that'll be perfectly on average to have 4 plains, 2 swamps on turn 6 for a Noxious Gearhulk, but that would be a really bad ratio for trying to cast Sanguine Brushstroke on turn 3. So this would be really hard to cast with that kind of ratio, so I think I'm going to cut that for mana reasons. Aether Sphere Harvester, I mean, it seems fine. Not like super exciting reason to be running it though, so it's a pretty easy cut if we need to cut something. Same with Kabira Takedown. Not in love with it. By far our worst removal spell. Now that we cut that, our worst removal spell is Fateful Absence, but we kind of only have 3 removal spells. We have Fateful Absence, Go for the Throat, Lonely, and we do have Noxious Gearhulk and Kaya. So I guess, yeah, we're pretty good. Pretty good on removal, but I think I'm still not going to cut any of those. Blood Fountain's real slow. Good value, but real slow. Mana Tithe is more funny than anything. I don't know if it's actually that good. It's probably not great, but people aren't really going to play around a counterspell ever from your white-black deck, so we can play it for humorous reasons. It's pretty narrow, though. Very bad draw late in the game. I'm pretty convinced I should be cutting that over anything else. The majority of our non-creature spells, and our creature spells, to be fair, are the kind of spells we're going to be casting during our turn, and we're going to be trying to spend the most of our mana throughout all of the early game turns for development. We want to play a 1-drop into 2-drop into 3-drop into 4-drop anytime we can, make the most of our mana. Not a lot of times we're holding an extra white mana up here, because we just don't have a lot of stuff to do at instant speed. So, yeah, our deck isn't the best at holding up extra mana for a counterspell. It's only 1 mana, so it's not that hard to hold up that mana, but it's got the other issue that I don't love of being a pretty bad draw late in the game. So, I mean, I guess Thoughtseize has the same problem. It's a bad draw late in the game, and we're never going to want to Thoughtseize instead of playing our most expensive creature in hand. So Thoughtseize could be the cut instead, or we could cut both of them and put something else back in. And that's an option too. Don't know that there was anything I cut that I'm that excited about. Everything's just pretty fine. Thraben Inspector's fine. Lion Sash is fine. Ranger of Eos would be bad in here. I guess we could put in a 5-mana board wipe, put in the Realm Cloak Giant. Maybe a Hostile Negotiations, have 1 card draw spell in here. Nothing super spicy though. Oops, I wanted to cut Mana Tithe first. I think I'm just going to still run Thoughtseize. Try to draw it at the right time, just hopefully pick it up early game and rip out our opponent's best card from their hand. And I think this is going to be the deck. Looks like a white-black kind of mid-rangey deck here for the first Arena Cube draft. Alright, so here we have a look at the first Arena Cube draft deck that we'll be playing in the December 2022 Cube. It's going to be a white-black mid-rangey aggro-y deck here. Got a lot of just solid, consistent creatures on curve. Dauntless Bodyguard, Lunarch Veteran on one. Some good value sagas like Life of Tishiro Umezawa and Restoration of Eiganjo here. Some Army in a Can sort of creatures like Adeline and Restoration of Eiganjo. Woe Strider spitting out another creature as well, Luris doing so. Woe Strider, really nice synergy with Elasil Core. As is all the token production between Architect of Restoration, Adeline, and Mural Shield of Argive. Then some decent value plays with Phyrexian Missionary as well. Then Yorion as a big flyer to try to close out the game. Gearhulk as a removal spell and a creature all in one. And Elesh Norn as a massive, massive win condition. So great suite of creatures all the way up the curve. Solid removal to go along with it. Lonely End, Go for the Throat, Fateful Absence. Some more interaction, Thoughtseize, letting us toy around with our opponent's hand. And stuff like Kaya to be a removal spell and a win condition at the same time. So pretty sweet, just black, white, basic stuff here. Primarily in white. White was pretty open early on in the draft. We took a ton of white cards early and got past some really solid white stuff as well. But then scooped up a little bit of black as the draft went on to make sure we had some removal, some interaction, and looks like we're in a pretty solid place. Very basic sort of cube deck today, but we'll see how it performs as we head into the gameplay. Here we are for game one. Looks like we're a mono-white aggro deck today, but I'm okay with that, especially when we start the curve with a 1-mana 2/1, and on turn 3 play one of the best 3-mana creatures on Arena, Adeline, Resplendent Cathar here. So turn 1, Dauntless Bodyguard. Pass the turn. Awkward thing about the Bodyguard is it's always going to make us... it's always going to ask if we want to sack the Bodyguard just at all times, even if its ability isn't targeting any creatures we control. So I do have to manually click through every phase, so I don't know if it was that worth it here. Opponent is on blue. They have 2 blue lands here. I don't honestly rather my opponent counter my History of Benalia than my Adeline, so I'm going to play that this turn just in case they do have a counter spell. And it looks like they don't. It's still a very solid play if they don't have a counterspell, because it's still going to be putting more threats on the board and attacking quite aggressively. So I'll take it. Adeline a knight? Adeline is a knight. Every creature we have right now is a knight, so that's pretty sweet. They're going to blow up my Bodyguard. Sure, I guess I'll sack it for fun. Ooh, Luris is the draw? Oh, that's so busted. Oh, that is so busted. Now I play Luris, and I cast Dauntless Bodyguard from my grave, choosing Luris. And now if they ever try to kill Luris, I can sack the Bodyguard to save Luris, and then just replay the Bodyguard the next turn anyway. And now, if these creatures are still on board next turn, both of my Knight tokens and my Dauntless Bodyguard will be getting +2/+1. Opponent does play Fires of Invention, though, which is a brutally strong card. It's going to allow them to play a card equal to the number of lands they have, in terms of mana value, or less. So they get to cast that Fiery Impulse for free. The downside of the card is that they can only cast 2 spells per turn now. But they get to cast those spells for free. And they can only cast spells during their own turn. So I get to hit for 1,000,000. Actually, I think I missed lethal. Oh, I would have had exactly lethal if I didn't sack Bodyguard. Because Bodyguard was a knight? No, I still would have been 1 damage off. Either way, that was explosive stuff from the Luris Dauntless Bodyguard combo. History of Benalia also getting in there was huge. But yeah, Fires of Invention is a super good card. So the way that it works is you can cast a spell with mana value less than or equal to the number of lands you control for free, and you can do it twice during your turn. And you can't cast anything during your opponent's turn. So if you have 5 lands out, if you have, 5 planes out, you can cast a 5-color card for free on turn 5. So it fixes your mana perfectly, and it kind of doubles your mana. If you have 2 good 5 mana plays and you have 5 lands out, you can play both of them. So Fires is going to be a very fun, very powerful build around in the cube. Works in a lot of the same decks that like Golos and Field of the Dead go into, which are 2 other very powerful options in the cube. So very cool stuff from our opponent, but we just had a really good mono white aggro curve that kind of hit them too hard before they got the Fires of Invention going there. So going to be 1-0 as we head into game 2. Here we are now in game 2. Definitely a much more black-white mid-rangey hand here, but I'm fine with it. Really good 6-drop, the Noxious Gearhulk in the meantime. Got some cheap interaction with Fateful Absence if our opponent gets too aggressive. We've got a Woe Strider in the middle of the game here to play around with. Our opponent is going to play an Elvish Mystic turn 1. It's going to let them start casting their spells a turn sooner. They basically have 3 mana out now. Wow, they are really ramping. I could Fateful Absence the Mystic to slow down their mana a little bit so they have only 4 mana next turn instead of 5. Probably wrong, but I'm going to... I think I'm going to try to just Fateful Absence whatever gigantic thing they play, rather than the mana to work immediately. They're on mono green right now. Maybe they're not a mono green deck. Okay. Every time they cast a creature, they can destroy an artifact or enchantment, look at the top 5 cards, do something crazy, a bunch of nonsense. Yeah, I guess we're giving them a card with Fateful Absence. This is a really bad spot here, because they probably have more than just a 5 mana play in their hand. Yeah, I am sort of wishing that I just blew up the mana dork. But if I did, they would have just played the Elder 1 turn after, and then I wouldn't have removal for it. So we blow that up pre-combat so we can hit with Adeline here. Opponent does flip the Remnant of the Rising Star, which means every creature they cast, they can spend X additional mana to put X +1/+1 counters on it. That's just a horrific time for us. I guess if we hit Elesh Norn, we're okay. That's about it, though, and we still need 3 more lands to get there. This is just some explosive stuff happening from the green deck. Play a Yorion, but I can't get through a 5/6 reach. Can't really make any attacks right now. Could hold on to Yorion so that I can Gearhulk twice later in the game. For now I can Woe Strider and set up my draws and just make sure I hit my 6th land for Gearhulk. Seems like a viable place to go here, just trying to make sure that we're hitting the 6th mana to cast a Noxious Gearhulk. And then our plan is going to be just to Gearhulk 2 creatures in a row. Next turn we Gearhulk, and the turn after we Yorion our Gearhulk to flicker it and recast. Oh my god. Now they've got the huge value play, the Great Henge, which allows them to draw a card every time they have a non-token creature under the battlefield under their control. It also gives them 2 mana every turn. It also gains them 2 life every turn. Card is insane. Swiftfoot Boots on Titania here to protect her means that they probably have like Argoth, if they're not just bootsing the Remnant. Argoth is the land that Titania melds with to create this gigantic Titania Gaia incarnate that would just kill us in like 1 turn, so they probably do have an Argoth in that 28 somewhere, and that's why they're protecting Titania. Let's go ahead and scry. See if we get our land on top. There is the land on top, so we don't need to scry again. Let's just draw it and play a Gearhulk to kill their Remnant of the Rising Star. Alright, well, the only creature that matters here is the Titania from our opponent. Problem is this Great Henge really threw a wrench in our plan. If they didn't have the Great Henge, this would be where we're sort of stable now. Against these 3 creatures, we're now pretty even on board, but the Great Henge just takes over games. Opponent's going to be gaining 2 life every turn. They have practically infinite mana, and they're going to get a +1/+1 counter on every creature they play and draw a card. But didn't draw into a creature. So that's good for us. We can't kill anything good with our Noxious Gearhulk right now, because we can't target Titania because of the boots, so we can just kill a 2/2 that taps for 1, which they don't really need right now. They have 8 mana without these mana dorks. I guess I just play Mural. Now our opponent can't cast spells during our turn or activate their abilities. Can attack with Adeline, and Adeline will attack as a 6-power creature, meaning if they block with Titania, we kill Titania. The issue here being they could double block Adeline. Okay, they're just going to block the 1/1. Might as well scry. There's Elesh Norn on top. Incredible card to have on top here. We have exactly enough mana to cast her, and that'll blow up our opponent's Elvish Mystic and their other mana dork. Won't kill their Tenacious Pup, because that'll be a 2/3 thanks to the Great Henge. So it's going to be a really good card for us, but Elesh Norn does not win us the game here. Opponent still has the potential to take things over with the Great Henge. Uh-oh. Especially with Storm the Festival off the top. The best 2 permanents from their top 5? They're both 2/2s, but because of the Great Henge, they're both 3/3s. Yeah, this is bad. Great Henge is doing some absurd things here. They're going to draw 2 more cards. They're going to draw another card because Visionary draws when it hits the board. I thought we had great things coming up when I saw that Elesh Norn, but opponents just got even better. Yeah, this is a wild game, whichever way it goes, and I do think even with Elesh Norn on top of our library, it's actually favored to our opponent still, because they just drew 1,000,000. They still have 4 cards in hand after just pooping out like 5 things onto the board. And they can just recast Storm the Festival from their grave and do it all again. So here's Elesh Norn. They have 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 total power on their board. Have to kill Titania, though, to kill Adeline, right? Because other than that, they have 1, 2, 3, 4 power. I think we attack with everybody. We just got to get aggressive here and try to kill them before, because every turn that they keep going on, they're just going to draw more cards, create more creatures, just do absurd, absurd things. Maybe I shouldn't have attacked with the 3/3? No, I definitely should have, because I'm making another 3/3 anyway. I was going to say the 3/3 is just going to die to the 3/4, but we're going to get another one, so. If I didn't attack with both, then this one would just die to it. Alright, they're not killing any of our creatures. They're taking a ton of damage. Oh, they are killing this 3/3, but other than that, they're taking a ton of damage. Yeah, I'll go ahead and get my scry, since this creature's going to die anyway. Invoke Justice, I'll take it. That's a big one. Oh, I don't have any permanents in my grave, but I can use Woe Strider to get around that. So I could, instead of Yorion, I can use Woe Strider to sack Gearhulk and then use the Invoke Justice to bring back Gearhulk and put counters wherever I want them. Get the end of the battlefield effect again. And if my opponent has a fight spell or something to kill Elesh Norn, we can also use Invoke Justice to make sure that Elesh Norn's going to come back to the board. So, I mean, worst case scenario, if I don't cast Invoke Justice next turn, it's still a nice card to have. Ren and 7 and Defiler of Vigor. So the Defiler draws them a card. Every time they cast a green permanent, they get a +1/+1 counter on their whole board. And they've got a huge Planeswalker out as well now. Ooh, Sir Farron dies to state-based actions before the Great Henge gives it the +1/+1 counter. And our opponent scoops them up. Elesh Norn's just too good. And Arena wants to know if I enjoyed playing with Elesh Norn. The answer is yes. That was disgusting. Yeah, opponent like really, really would have won that game without Elesh Norn. This card, just absurd. Can't wait to see the new version in the new Phyrexia set next February. Here we are in round 3. We are luckily undefeated so far, and this is a very keepable hand. We'll start things off with Lunark Veteran and definitely play Woe Strider turn 3. We can use that Woe Strider's Goat to help scry towards the plains to get Adeline down, and if we just hit a plains immediately, then the plan is to turn 3 Adeline instead. We've seen Adeline in, I believe, both of our other games, popping off as a very powerful card. Lunark Veteran for Pelt Collector is a pretty fair trade to me. I'm going to go ahead and get a land out first so I could Fateful Absence if something super weird happens. Alright. So, Lunark Veteran for Pelt Collector, not actually a fair trade, it's actually a trade that's very far in our favor, and our opponent realizes that and just doesn't take it. Because the Pelt Collector gets bigger throughout the game, whereas the Lunark Veteran can come back from grave. Do I want to just Fateful Absence immediately? I don't think I do. Opponent has the best red card on Arena, Fable the Mirror Breaker here, so it's going to be a little bit of an uphill battle here. Especially since I can't get an attack off next turn to get a 1-1 off Adeline, unless I Fateful Absence their Goblin Shaman, which can't possibly be right. I mean, it could, because I will hit them for 2 damage next turn. If I attack with Lunark Veteran and they don't have a Goblin Shaman on board. Feels incredibly counterintuitive, though. I don't think we're supposed to be playing that aggressively. I think we just don't get the value from Adeline this turn. We just pass the turn. Especially since our opponent's in green, the odds of them playing something significantly better than a 2-2 that creates treasure is tremendously high. Life of Toshiro Umezawa, a little bit too late to kill a 1-1 Pelt Collector, but not too late to make our attack a lot better with Adeline this turn, because then they can't double block and kill her. Good Fateful Absence if they try to do that, but it's nice to have it at the ready for later. So I think what I'm going to do here is Life of Toshiro Umezawa, +2/+2 to Adeline. Could also +2/+2 the Veteran and attack both. I really don't want to have to Fateful Absence, though, off of a double block. So I'm just going to get the Adeline damage in. Hold on to the Fateful Absence. And soon enough we'll have a 2-3 coming out of our Life of Toshiro Umezawa. And Reflection of Kiki-Jiki is now on the board, which does some busted things, allowing our opponent to create a token that is a copy of another non-legendary creature each turn and give it haste. They do have to sacrifice the tokens at the end step, but that card is still really, really strong. Ooh, Spirited Companion. Drop Spirited Companion pre-combat, buff Adeline up, draw a card, see what we hit. Charming Prince. That's actually good with Spirited Companion. We found a synergy. Put 2 more creatures on board with Woe Strider, or I could attack in holding up a Fateful Absence in case they go for a triple block. I highly doubt they're going to go for a triple block here, but I guess we'll see. Yeah, they're just going to take it. So the worst case scenario for Reflection of Kiki-Jiki here is that it gives them infinite chump blockers, because they can use this during our turn to make like a copy of a Green Seeker to block Adeline and also tap. I kind of feel like I need to kill Reflection of Kiki-Jiki. It's just a very good card, but I'll wait till their end step at least, just in case they cast like an Elesh Norn or something. Right, they attack with a Goblin Shaman, get a treasure, cast an Elesh Norn. That would be worse than Reflection of Kiki-Jiki, but I'm probably killing the Reflection in their end step. Vivian. Fateful Absence can kill Vivian, but I don't get priority until after they use Vivian's ability. So they're guaranteed to at least get a 4/4 here.
This will be over.
Yeah. But I can kill Vivian instead of the Reflection. That would be a better kill if I draw into an Elesh Norn. They don't have the mana to use Reflection yet. I don't really get to attack into a 4/4 even with Adeline, because Adeline just 1/1 trades into it. Yeah, they're just really walling me off here now. Let's only choose non-tokens. Non-legendary, so they can create 4/4s. Just a 4/4 chump blocker every turn. That is really bad. Kiki Chiki's bad for me. The 4/4 is bad for me. Vivian's bad for me. Kind of wishing I just Charming Princeton drew a card here. I don't even know if I'm end-stepping a Fateful Absence anymore. I pretty much definitely should. It's like no way to find lethal here. Which means Vivian is going to matter if it sticks around. Yeah, killing Vivian is basically killing 3 more 4/4s if the game lasts 3 more turns.
This can't be the best way to coexist.
Invoke Justice is very interesting. Now I can attack in with Adeline, let Adeline trade off, and then just get her right back. Seems like a pretty reasonable line to me, because then we get the 4/4 out of the way and they can't Reflection it back anymore. Don't have enough mana to do that and do anything else, though. Which isn't great. Charming Prince Woe Strider just to get the board state wide. Sets me up to be able to scry a bunch in the future if I need to. Yeah, I mean, I could wait on the Invoke Justice till next turn, actually. Drop the Woe Strider so Adeline's max power. And then I could do the attack of Adeline, trade into the 4/4 right now, and then just Invoke Justice next turn, but I could also just Invoke Justice post-combat next turn. Although if I wait till next turn, they'll have the mana up to use Reflection, which they don't have right now. Yeah, this is the only turn I actually get to trade Adeline into a full-on card instead of just a Reflection token. Ooh, they play around tricks here. Super happy with that. Now we actually get to kill 2 things. Kill both of those. Nice. Yeah, that's very good. I can't sack this 1/1. If I do, Adeline will be down to 6 power and won't kill both of those. So that's why I'm losing the scry value from Woe Strider there. Okay, drawn to a Yorion. Burn down the house. Well, happy I did not Invoke Justice yet. Let's set up the top of our library, shall we? Five damage to each creature is coming in hot. Our opponent can make a Reflection of Dryad, go for the ability again. That is what they're going to do before everything dies. They did get 2 lands off the top, that's nice. Elesh Norn, also nice. And we have the best card in our whole deck on top of our library, so we will keep it there. No reason to scry anymore. Can't afford Elesh Norn yet, but as soon as we hit 1 more land, we know what we're going to do with it. Okay, so let's... Do I have enough mana to Invoke Justice and Veteran? I don't. I'm 1 mana away from recasting Veteran and Invoke Justicing. I could recast Veteran and Yorion it to flip it to the first form. But just Oh, I know, I'm 1 mana away from doing that as well. What am I talking about? Just playing a flyer here seems pretty good. Because if they don't play a reach creature... If they don't play a reach creature or something... A flyer of their own... I can just invoke Justice Adeline back to the board and put 4+1/+1 counters on Yorion and just hit them for 8. So I feel like that's probably better than just invoke Justicing immediately. Because now we're threatening lethal next turn against a lot more things. And Glorybringer can chump block Yorion. What on earth is this about? It's a combat trick to kill Yorion? I'm at 28 life. I'm gonna just take it? I'm very suspicious of that. Maybe they have a burn spell to kill Yorion? We'll find out right now, because we're gonna threaten lethal. It's 8 flying damage. Opponent sacks the clue to draw a card. I guess we'll never know. It was probably like a lightning bolt or something. They needed to stack Glorybringer up alongside with. But yeah, not going to be enough. So setting up the Yorion for Yorion into Invoke Justice is going to find us the victory there in the end. Our house got burnt down, but we just got some justice. I guess that's some family insurance right there. 3-0 it is as we head into Game 4. Here we are now in Game 4. We've drawn a lot of swamps. I'm running 11 plains, 6 swamps, and the mana has been a little awkward towards the number of swamps we're drawing. I'm still going to keep this hand. We actually have more black cards than it looks like because this Luris can be cast off of these swamps. So we can play Life of Toshiro Umezawa Lonely End. I was going to say Lovely End, but that's not the name. And Luris, even if I'm on mono swamps, so... Got a lot of plays, potentially. We have 2 guaranteed plays. We are hoping for planes, though, but there's 11 in here, so probably get there. Alright, drop a swamp and pass the turn. Opponent is on white, and we do immediately hit a plains. So it hasn't really been like the draws that have been particularly awkward, it's just been the openers. I'm going to play Phyrexian Missionary here, because with Luris we can recast Phyrexian Missionary from our graveyard and kick it if we want. So if we do need this kicker effect later, we can do it with Luris, which is extra spicy. Speaking of extra spicy, being able to blow up their indestructible creature with Life of Toshiro Umezawa, I'd say that's relatively spicy. Would I rather just keep curving my creatures out? Because unless they put +1/+1 counters on this or something, I can still kill it with Life of Toshiro Umezawa later, so I might as well probably be mana efficient here. Yeah, I think I'm supposed to be mana efficient and let the missionary in. And then play Luris. Just be aggressive, get a bunch of power on the board. And still kill the Vanguard well later. Now, our opponent could block with Vanguard and pay 4 life if they want to lose 4 life instead of 2 life. That is an option. For some reason, they've opted not to do that, though. I disagree, though. That seems suboptimal. I think you always block with Vanguard and pay 4 life. Now, I've probably unironically done that at some point in my life, and been like, this is definitely the right play. Chump with Vanguard, pay 4 life, but I'm like chumping a 2/2 or a 3/3. Just makes actually no sense. So if my opponent doesn't have removal here, it should be pretty much impossible from their race, because we have 5 lifelinking power on board. Oh yeah, we're in a great spot. They have a Welcoming Vampire here that we can give a nice Lonely End to. Good work done by that card here. Yeah, Lonely End and Life of Toshiro Umezawa will be the play this turn. Just get rid of their whole board. And keep our own. Oh, I wasn't the starting player? I was, though. I guess this part's just always in black. Yeah, that's kind of weird. I would have liked to seen that grayed out so it would be a little less confusing. But that's fair enough. I guess that part is actually part of what is resolving. There is text on the stack that says if I wasn't the starting player, gain 2 life. I just was the starting player. So it doesn't matter that that text was on the stack. Heliod with an empty board. Feels pretty bad for our opponent. Feels pretty good for us. I'll take it. Drop a Dauntless Bodyguard here on Luris. This might be a little cheeky. And not actually the right play. Maybe I'm supposed to play Restoration of Eiganjo because it does pick up the planes to guarantee a Kaya next turn. That's actually almost definitely the right play. I just get really excited when I have Dauntless Bodyguard Luris combo because it's a busted combo. And yeah, opponent just has Heliod and Elspeth Resplendent. Both of these are kind of like amplifier sort of cards that make your other creatures or your other plays better, that don't do a whole ton as standalones. So opponent's pretty much just dead if they don't get a good hit off of Elspeth here. They got a great hit. They got a creature with 3 white symbols, which means that Heliod is active as a blocker as well now. So that's unfortunate for us. If I did go for Restoration of Eiganjo, I would have guaranteed lethal next turn because I'd have the mana to play Kaya. Now I have to get lucky, and we did get lucky because we never didn't have it. Exile the Banalish Marshal, which makes it so Heliod is no longer a creature because their devotion is not high enough, and we slam in 4 lethal to their face. I guess, actually, I would have been 1 damage away from lethal if I played Restoration of Eiganjo because I wouldn't have that additional 2 power that I got from playing Dauntless Bodyguard. So technically we killed them a turn faster than we would have. Doesn't make it the right play. Still would have been better to have a guaranteed Kaya by playing the Restoration of Eiganjo. But that is very funny. Now that you think of it. I actually got lucky. I misplayed into a faster kill there. So we are 4-0 now. 3,000 gold and 3 cards. Only 1 win away from breaking even on gold and just leaving with a bunch of cards for free. Well, a few cards. They don't give us a ton for these arena cubes. But yeah, a very fun time so far. Hopefully we can keep it up as we head into round 5. Here we are in round 5, and I think this is actually going to be the first mulligan for me. We don't have any proactive plays until turn 6, because in order for Maul of the Skyclaves to do anything, we need a creature on board, which we really can't guarantee with this hand, as our only creature is a 6-mana play, and then Go for the Throat only does something if our opponent plays a creature we need to kill, so I think we actually have to mulligan this, because we don't really have a game plan. This is much better. Now we know that we're actually curving out with some creatures throughout the game. The lack of a black source is a little bit rough, but if I get rid of Gearhulk, I only need 1 swamp and I'm ready to cast everything in the hand. Still not great, but we're actually doing stuff in the early game, so we can scry with Charming Prince, hope to hit some goodies. We're going to keep this, see what we get here. Opponent starts with a Spike Field Cave. We do immediately hit a swamp, so I'm going to go for Elas Ilkor first, so we can get the maximum of value out of their enter and leaves the battlefield effects. And my apologies, you probably do hear a little bit extra static throughout the videos today. That is just because it is winter and my heater is going crazy. Braid, that's super rude. Yeah, can't do anything about that. Guess we're going to be scrying with Charming Prince. Post-combat and not gaining a life. There's a Thoughtseize. Still feels a little late for Thoughtseize. I don't need another land. I mean, they've cast 1 spell. It's actually probably a fine draw. But I'm going to play Mural next turn, which means Thoughtseize is going to be played 2 turns after this. Might be wrong, but I'm just going to dump it on the bottom as well. Just play Mural. Like, we know next turn we're going to play Mural, so again, it's going to be 2 turns till we're casting a Thoughtseize. At that point, how good is it going to be? Ooh, History of Benalia versus Mural. Just going to play Mural. Stay mana efficient, play my most expensive card every turn. Although Elspeth's Nightmare does get to duress me, so if I played History of Benalia, they couldn't make me discard it. then they would be forced into making me discard Lonely End. So I guess it depends on if they end up playing any good creatures, but it might have been better to play History of Benalia just so they couldn't make me discard it. Oh yeah, this is bad. I've mulliganed down a card, and our opponent has now 2-for-1 dust with Elspeth's Nightmare, and we have nothing but removal against a control deck with a very low creature count. Looks like this one might just be in the bag. Opponent has Foretold a card as well, which means that Alrund's Epiphany is the most likely play I can think of. They even exiled the graveyard so Luris doesn't get to do anything with our Charming Prince or our Elas Ilkor. This Elspeth's Nightmare just single-handedly 3-for-1 us almost completely out of the game. Could have played better here. Obviously, in hindsight, it would have been best to just drop the History of Benalia there against the Elspeth's Nightmare's Duress ability, part 2 of the saga, but I forgot that that is what it did on part 2 of the saga, so I just defaulted to the best play if we had no information on board. Wow, Glorybringer's another card that's a 2-for-1. It puts a dragon that is pretty much a must-kill on the board and immediately works as a removal spell. So they got rid of one card on our board, and now we're going to have to spend a card to kill that. So opponent is 4, maybe 5 cards ahead in card advantage. We mulliganed, so we're down a card. They 3-for-1 us, which puts them up 2 more cards. So that's up 3 cards total. They then 2-for-1 us with Glorybringer, so they're up 4 cards in card advantage. This is just a beautiful game for the Grixis control deck. This is exactly how they want things to go. Here's a Tolarian Terror, which is far too big for us to kill with a Lonely End. And there's the Scarab God. That is it. That is going to be game. If you have never played against a Scarab God before, it is a very big win condition. Especially if you get to do it after being wildly ahead in cards. The Scarab God is going to allow them to exile any creatures from any graveyards for only 4 mana to create 4/4 copies of those creatures. The worst part about the Scarab God is if we kill it, like if we make it die instead of specifically exiling it, it's literally just going to go back to our opponent's hand. So we can't even kill it with destroy removal. We would need exile removal specifically. So Scarab God hits the board here. We have no draws in our deck that turn the game around. We could maybe draw something that exiles it, but then we still just die to their other creature on board. And opponent still has the card advantage in hand. A very bad game for us there. Great stuff for the Grixis control deck. Here we are now in Game 6, a very keepable hand here. Our opponent is unfortunately on the play. And especially with a start like Hopeful Initiate, great 1-drop start here. It's also very good against our Spirited Companion, because it can blow up an artifact or enchantment by removing some +1/+1 counters from it. So hopefully they don't get it trained up too quickly here to where we can actually draw 2 cards off our companion by using Spirited Companion with Charming Prince. Alright, Reckoner, Bankbuster, so no counters on the Hopeful Initiate yet. Our opponent is on blue-white. They can have a very controlling deck, but that does not look like what's going on here. They can also have a lot of flicker effects like Charming Prince and Yorion, with a lot of good enter the battlefield effects like Spirited Companion, so that could also be the case here. So we will drop Spirited Companion because it'll be a little while before they have the counters on Initiate to kill it. Noxious Gearhulk, a little bit of an awkward draw, another card that's pretty bad against the Initiate if they manage to get the counters on it. Don't want to see a lot of artifacts or enchantments right now, but Gearhulk is very good with the Yorion in our hand. If we can get it to stick around and play the Yorion later. Alright, opponent's just going to use this Reckoner Bankbuster to start drawing some cards. They can do that 3 times. Then they get a 1/1 pilot that can crew the Bankbuster, which is a 4/4. Go for the Throat. That's a fine draw. Hopeful Initiate is good here, but I don't think it's good enough to go for the Throat. I am going to Charming Prince, exile the Spirited Companion, bring it back and draw a card. I think drawing one card is better than scrying two right now. Generally, I'd say it's a little better in most scenarios. Unless I just know what's on top of my library and know that I don't want to draw it, then scry 2 is like, okay, just scry that card away because I don't want to draw it anyway, and then I get to see one card deeper. Maybe my deck has a lot more artifacts and enchantments than I remembered, but I definitely really notice when I'm drawing artifacts and enchantments when my opponent has a card on board that threatens to blow them up. But yeah, now I draw Life of Toshiro Mizawa and I'm like, uh-oh, that can get blown up by Initiate as well. And I'm going to draw Restoration of Eiganjo. Alright. So they're going to hold back here. They can't crew the Bankbuster, but they're blue-white, so they can very easily have flash creatures like Restoration Angel. I have a Go for the Throat if something super weird happens, so I need to wait. Don't play Life of Toshiro Mizawa here. Just hold up Go for the Throat. Just in case. Although if my Charming Prince dies, it's really not that big of a deal. And it's the only creature that really gets in for an attack, but let's see. Let's see what's going on here. Maybe our opponent's just going to draw another card with Reckoner Bankbuster's ability. Spend 2 mana, remove another charge counter from it, draw another card. Ooh, they get a treasure and a 1/1 when they've removed all the counters from it. They're going to Memory Deluge. Okay, so a very good card draw spell, letting them put 2 cards from the top 4 into their hand. And then they get to put 2 cards from the top 7 into their hand later for 7 mana. So pretty good play for our opponent. So since we do have to go for the post-combat Life of Toshiro Mizawa, we just get to gain some life instead of getting them for a couple extra points of damage. But I think it was worth it to play it a little safe there. Maybe not, because again, it didn't matter too much if Charming Prince died of all things, but... Heliod Suncrown, they're very low on white devotions. This does very little. They can give their creatures lifelink, maybe, if they have bonus mana, get some counters on them. Ooh, Invoke Justice, that's a pretty sick draw. So, nothing to -1/-1 on board, so we just +2/+2 one of our 1/1s so that we can get in with 2 creatures. This turn, and we're probably going to Yorion post-combat. I know I could Yorion Gearhulk later, but I'm going to keep the aggro on, I think, get a nice solid flyer on the board. Just try to curve my opponent out here. If they don't have a board wipe, we're in a very good position. Oh, I could exile Life of Toshiro Mizawa as well. That's fancy. I forgot this could hit non-creatures as well, but I'm okay with that flipping into a creature now. Exile Companion again? With Charming Prince, so I just draw a card right now, and then during their end step, I get the dog back again and draw another card. We've got an Eleshnorn at 7 mana now. We've got a really good lineup of plays. Even if our opponent board wipes us now, I'm feeling pretty good. And Sanctuary Warden is not a board wipe, nor does it add enough white devotion to trigger Heliod yet. It is a very good blocker here, though. A 5/5 flyer against our 4/5 flyer, and it has a shield counter on it. So we can't even just blow it up with Go for the Throat. It's got a shield counter for protection against that. Got some really good value from Charming Prince, Spirited Companion, Yorion, all those cards synergizing together. Don't really have a way to get an attack in here through this Sanctuary Warden. I actually don't even have the second Swamp for Gear Hulk anyway, if I wanted to try to use that to blow up the Warden. I have 6 mana total. They're not going to crew Bankbuster with the Warden, so if I attack with everybody, they're going to kill Yorion with Sanctuary Warden, kill a 1/1 with their 1/2, trade with another one and take like 2 damage. We really don't have attacks here. Just trying to see if it might be worth it to like send Yorion in and go for the throat, spend 2 spells to kill the Sanctuary Warden. I just don't think so, though. I probably just set up to make sure my board state is as wide as possible so that casting Eleshnor next turn just guarantees lethal. So I want to just not attack with anybody. That way everyone is still around next turn. And then just pass, holding up a go for the throat to blow up one of their creatures. And then, yeah, we just drop Eleshnor and hope that that can find us lethal next turn. It is going to blow up 2 of their creatures, most likely. The Initiate and the Citizen. Just having an Eleshnor on board. Realm Cloaked Giant. Destroy all non-giants. Well, we'll pop the shield counter, I guess. I guess I could just do this after the wipe. That works too. So that wasn't horrible for us, because again, we still have all this stuff to play. I want to play an Eleshnor on the empty board. Our opponent still has 4 cards in hand to try to deal with her. Could bring the Yorion back instead. Flicker the History Benalia. That's actually a really nice way to get a wide board going just immediately. Spread out our threats here, have both of these be 5 power. Then I can flicker the History of Benalia. Then I know I'm going to get 2 more creatures off of it now. I'm going to hold up this Lonely End. She probably should have played Lunarch Veteran first instead. Don't think I'm holding up a -3/-3 ability right now. But yeah, now we're... History of Benalia is back to 1, so we're going to get another Knight from it next turn. We have a 5/5 Vigilance, a 5/6 Flyer, and a 2/2 Vigilance, and a 1/1 Flyer, so immediately a fresh new board state. And with these cards on board, getting an Eleshnor down is likely to stack up into more than enough damage to find lethal again. But our opponent does have 4 mana up. They have 2 blue because they have their Seagate and their Midnight Clock. So we do have to be a little worried about a counterspell, but we don't really have another play to make. I mean, I guess if I resolve a Lonely End on a Solemn Simulacrum, they're already dead, so they're already just going to counter that if they have a counterspell, because they can't crew the Bankbuster with this. They could get a 1/1 Chump Blocker with Bankbuster. A 1/1 Pilot Chump Blocker, Chump Block the 5/5 Knight. If Eleshnor resolves, it is 100% lethal, but I just don't think it resolves when they have double blue up. I can't threaten lethal without going for it, though. not gonna go for it. This might be dumb. Just send everybody in. I mean, worst case scenario, we're still really, really likely to have lethal in 2 turns. Maybe it's Settle the Wreckage. I think that is back in this cube. We have a Fateful Absence. Do get to draw a card off of that. Okay, that's fine. If I can get them to keep spending mana on interaction here, I can guarantee Elishnorn post-combat. But then if they have removal, they can just get rid of her as well. Alright, well they tapped out. I think I'm actually going to play around removal here. Hopefully I can hit another just random creature to play. See, this is the problem. This is what happens every time I try to play around like a counterspell or removal. I just end up playing around the counterspell and the removal, and then they just don't... It's like then I just never play the card anyway. Probably would have just killed them if I played it. I could just play Gear Hulk here. It's not ideal to not get the ETB out of it, but it's a 5/4 menace, which is menacingly likely to just kill them. Or just hold up Lonely End. I have a ton of ways to blow up whatever kind of blockers they try to put on this board. Luminarch Aspirant, that is a very good card. They get a +1/+1 counter wherever they want it every time they go to combat. Realm Cloak Giant, a gigantic vigilant creature. Alright, they pretty much tapped out. I mean, they have 2 mana up. But most of the counterspells I can think of in here outside of literal counterspell are like 3 or 4 mana. There's like Exclude and Dismiss. Counter a creature, draw a card for 3 mana. Counter any spell, draw a card for 4 mana. So I think we just start killing the board. They have 2 blockers. So it isn't lethal unless I play one of these 2 cards. I may as well play the biggest one. Here's the Elishnorn. Crew the Bankbuster. And I guess it's actually not lethal. Because they have the Bankbuster. It wouldn't be lethal either way. It's not a great spot for our opponent though. So they gain 2, take 3. They're down to 3. We've got 3 creatures on the board and a Gear Hulk as a backup. Oh no, they're up to 6. Oh yeah, they gained life. They gained 5 life, not 3 life. Did my math all kinds of wrong there. Yeah, we would have killed them a long time ago if I didn't play around counterspells. Probably need to just stop doing that against anything but like blue-red. Blue-red is the deck with like a ton of instant sorceries. Especially with this deck, I should have noticed with They're not actually looking that controlling with like Heliod, Hopeful Initiate, Luminarch Aspirant. They're a relatively aggro blue-white kind of build. They're not like the dedicated blue-white control deck. They're more mid-rangey here. Sphinx's Revelation, gain 2 life, draw 2 cards. 6 mana up from there. They might have been trying to draw into Farewell to exile all creatures. They could have a Settle the Wreckage in there. Thoughtseize is the perfect draw against that. This also lets me know exactly what I need to play around. They have a Spectral Sailor for a blocker, they have a counterspell, and they have a Lion Sash. So if I just get rid of Spectral Sailor, they just die? I mean, I could be wrong here, but I'm pretty sure they just die. I mean, they get a new hand for Midnight Clock, but then they don't have 4 mana up for a potential Settle the Wreckage. I could draw like a 2 mana removal spell here, kill Elesh Norn and survive. That is the best they could hope for. And it looks like they don't have that. That is going to be a victory for us, and we are now in the money. We are breaking even in terms of gold and leaving this event with a couple random rare rewards. Very nice stuff for the return to the Arena Cube. Here we are now in Game 7 of the Arena Cube draft. We are 5-1 so far. Very nice hand here. Just kind of need to hit one more land within these early draws. Spirited Companion can help us do that. Charming Prince can also help do that with scrying. Well, we're going to go for the Spirited Companion first, and we did hit a Swamp. Aether Channeler is the play from our opponent. Probably going to choose to draw a card of their own. Yep. So we play our 2 mana 1/1 draw card, they play their 3 mana 2/1 draw card. Don't love this matchup. Opponent has multiple Triomes and a Mind Stone. Opponent is probably on the 5 color, very good value pile. Only 3 mana play I can do here is Woe Strider. So that's the only way to be mana efficient, and it's also going to let me scry to set up the top card of my library, so I'm actually kind of fine with this. I will sacrifice the goat, try to make sure that we hit a plains next turn. If it's a swamp or a non-land card, we're probably going to scry it to the bottom. Thragtusk. Brutal card. When this enters the battlefield, they gain 5 life, and when it leaves the battlefield for any reason, they get a 3/3 beast. So if we put it back in their hand, if they flicker it, if we exile it, if we kill it, all that stuff, they're going to get a 3/3 off of it. Thragtusk is a very nice card, and we are going to hit a plains. Super happy to see that. Let's drop... I think I'm going to drop Adeline here. And attack with Woe Strider, because I'm fine with it trading into either. Although Adeline plus Woe Strider is a pretty good way to scry a bunch. We can use the soldiers to scry with Woe Strider. Could play Elas, Charming Prince, the Spirited Companion. Just do some more value plays from now, some more setup turns. Seems fine. And now we have a Death Toucher on board, so they probably don't really attack in. Yeah, you probably just trade with Aether Channeler. Oops. If I send in... I don't really want to trade with Aether Channeler, but I'd be okay with the trade for Thragtusk. I hope my opponent is not a 5-color deck that even in a 5-color pile found enough flicker synergy to just go wild with Thragtusk. That would be devastating. If they just cast like an Ephemerate now to exile it, then put it back on the board, and then do it again in their next upkeep. Gain 1,000,000 life, get 1,000,000 3/3s. Chandra, Torch of Defiance is hitting the board. Very strong Planeswalker. It's kind of Red's Jace the Mind Sculptor. Red's 4 different loyalty ability Planeswalker. Very, very strong card. Ornithopter Paradise is going to get cast off of Chandra's Plus ability. And a Llanowar Elf's opponent has their mana set up here. They're really set up here. I'm going to Woe Strider away the Spirited Companion. We need to hit lands still. Trying to get to 7 mana now for Elesh Norn. We did hit a Plains. So Lonely End can remove 3 loyalty counters, which is not enough to kill Chandra. Chandra's at 5 loyalty. The ultimate requires 7. Makes it so every time they cast a spell, they deal 5 to any target. Chandra's already just a massive deal on board, though. Being able to deal 4 to creatures. Being able to draw them extra cards with the other +1. Really don't have any way to threaten her. I guess if I drop Adeline, attack her with Woe Strider, end up just trading off with Aether Channeler at this point. But we get to start whittling down their board a little bit. Oh, we are going to trade with Thragtusk. I'm super fine with that. Because that likely means that they're not going to be flickering Thragtusk at all this game. Yeah, this is fine. Does, however, mean that their board is going to be just as wide. So maybe they'll use Chandra to -3 and kill our Adeline. Then Chandra would be at a low enough loyalty count that we could finish her off with Lonely End. That could be good for us. And that is going to be the play. Alright, so Lonely End can get rid of Chandra here. And we'll be doing that in the end step. Oh... Well, I guess we lose. Titania's command works very similarly to how it works in Brothers War Draft. When it resolves, the player who cast it wins the game. Yeah, I mean, even Elesh Norn doesn't even do that much now. It's just a whole problem and a half. I still really need to kill Chandra. I'm tempted to -3/-3 this Aether Channeler, but then we're just letting Chandra stay forever because we can't attack through 2 bears.
I don't need this.
1 mana away from Elesh Norn. Missionary back Elas and immediately recast them and have another Death Touch on board against all this? It's quite reasonable. We're not really in a position to keep attacking for Adeline to pop off. This gives us a lifelinking blocker as well. Alright. It might not be over. Take 8 damage here. Basically take 6 because we're going to gain a couple life. They kill our Death Touch and our Lifelinker, and then we still have a 2/2 and 1/1 we can double block the 4/3 with next turn. I mean, if they're willing to sack Llanowar Elves, they probably don't need the mana, so it's not that valuable to kill it here. But this way we get to double block and get a kill and only lose one of these 2 creatures. But I guess I could do that with these 2. over here. But I could also do that on a 4/4. I guess we just do that. So take 7. They still kill the Death Toucher, and the Lifelinker still kill the same creatures. Yeah, and this way we kill their biggest stuff. Feels like the place to be. They have an Ember Cleave. Ember Cleave would leave us mega dead. Coma's pretty bad too. Coma's a relatively bad time for us. Yeah, that's too much text. Pulled out the 5,000-page dictionary on me, and I can't really beat it. Indestructible. They can't give Coma hexproof. If I draw tremendously well, could get like a Kaya and exile their Coma, but that would have to happen within like a turn to get us there. We do get a 4/4 Flying Vigilance first strike, which is a pretty good blocker, but they can use Coma to tap down my Knight token. But if that's what they do here, if that's the case, then the Knight is still putting in work because it's still killing 3/3s every turn. Yikes. Alright, Kaya doesn't even do it now, because if we Kaya, we die to everything else. I guess if we hit a land right now, then we go Elesh Norn, and that probably whittles down their board enough to not just die. And then we hit a Kaya the turn after we hit a land. So we go Plains into Kaya as our next 2 draws. Okay. I haven't done the math, but I think we can just barely survive here. No, because they can tap both our creatures by tapping 2 serpents. I was gonna say I have 2 creatures that can block Coma, but that's not true because they have like 4 serpents. They just sack 2 serpents and let everything else in and hit for like exact lethal. Oh my god, and they top deck Metamorph to Metamorph our Elesh Norn and just completely nullify it. Oh, it was a brutal game. We just get absolutely demolished by 4-color ramp nonsense. Just all the stuff. 5 and 2 it is. Here we are now in game 8 on the play. A little bit of a slow hand, but we're on the play, which certainly makes up for it. We have a very, very nice turn 3 play. Restoration of Agonjo, guaranteeing that we hit another Plains. I have a ton of mana here to cast these big, high-impact spells like Kaya and Invoke Justice later on. We did hit a cheap card to play now. We have a Lunarch Veteran to start things off. Our opponent did start with a Phoenix Trick, so they're definitely aggressive. They're going to be red-green aggro, Phoenix Trick into Scavenging Ooze. That Ooze can exile stuff from my graveyard, so it can kind of counteract the second ability of Restoration of Agonjo. If they hold up the green mana to exile whatever we want to discard and put back on board. But they haven't held up the green mana, so now we know we get to ramp with Restoration of Agonjo, which is very, very nice. That being said, they didn't hold up the mana because they played a Simulacrum, which has put 4 power on their board for only 3 mana. They have a 2/1 and 2 counters on the Phoenix Trick, and we're in a world of pain here. Opponent on the play, 1-drop, 2-drop, 3-drop, super aggressive cards. Not looking like a great time for us, I can tell you that. ramp out that extra land there. But, yep. I think the stuff from our opponent's a little too aggressive. That might finish it off for us. Maybe 5 and 3 today. This thing just unearths for more damage later. There's no creatures in their grave right now, so trade into the Ooze and the Simulacrum. Get 2 of these creatures off the board. Again, Simulacrum can unearth with haste later, but at least it's off the board for now. Now Restoration of Egonjo flips, which is another blocker for us. We can Kaya and exile the Phoenix Trick. I can't invoke Justice, so the choices are Lunarch Veteran or Kaya, and that's it, so we kind of have to just Kaya. Which means we are going to let Kaya die to them unearthing their other thing, because I don't think I chump with Architect if they unearth the Solemn card. Because if I just hit 1 more Plains, I can return, even Kaya, I can return with Invoke Justice. It's any permanent. That being said, I can also invoke Justice the Architect, so it'll just be slower. Yeah, I guess I leave Kai on board here. The +1's pretty dang good. Ooh, Thoughtseize. See what's going on in our opponent's hand. Root Wire Amalgam Star of Extinction. So if they get to 7 mana, they can do 20 to each creature and Planeswalker. 2, 3, 4, 5. 6, 7, so 2 turns they're going to do that. They can play a Root Wire Amalgam, but I can exile it. I guess I get rid of the Star of Extinction. Okay, so now when this dies, it goes back to my hand and I get a 1/1 flyer. So even if they kill this, I have a 1/1 flyer. Wow, that's pretty good. Fills the board, but I do get my 1/1 flyer. Now I get to play the front half of that card, the Lunarch Veteran again. They're going to prototype out the Amalgam. We know that their last card in hand is a Forest. Next turn they get to discard some cards, draw some cards. I put a Ghost Form counter on the Lunarch Veteran. I know this is around to chump block the Amalgam no matter what, so I can send in the 1/1 flyer. We chump block the Amalgam and then we exile it with Kaya next turn. They can only activate the ability as a sorcery, so they can't sacrifice it in response to me trying to exile it with Kaya. Jukai Liberator. They do combat damage to a player, choose land or non-land, get a card of that type. This doesn't flip into a haste card, no. It doesn't, it's just a 4/4 flyer. Okay, so... What I hit the Invoke Justice mana. Big hit right there. So we buff up the flyers so that they're big enough to deal with that. I think that's what we do. Pick up the Restoration and buff up the flyers. Yeah, so we do exile the Amalgam. I need one of these to be a... If one of these is a 5/5, that's kind of perfect, actually. They can't send in with Liberator, and I have a 5/5 flyer to block their 4/4 flyer. guess it depends what they hit on top now. They can actually draw removal now. They drew Star of Extinction by using Shigeki to bring that back. So they're going to do 20 to everything. So our Planeswalker's gone, our Kaya is going to be gone, so we want to use Kaya on Lunarch Veteran so that we get a 1/1 flyer. But yeah, now we just set up, we know there's going to be a board wipe coming.
Here, let me help.
They don't get to board wipe my equipment, so I might as well. Hit for 5 here. Because now I get to play this equipment, so they can't just be like, oh, well then I won't Star of Extinction. Because if they don't Star of Extinction, I still have 4 power to block their 4/4 flyer. They can't really do much. Oh, I guess they could hit me with Liberator, though. Yeah, actually I have to double chump, but that's fine, because they get a 1/1 off this. Or I could just kill that and chump there. It's also pretty good. Yeah, no, we still had good blocks there, even off the double attack. That wasn't bad for us. Alright, Star of Extinction it is. We will get our 1/1 flyer, and we'll still have a Lunarch Veteran in hand, and a Maul of the Skyclaves on board. Spirited Companion is the draw. Restoration of a Gonjo gets to flip. This actually was not a bad Star of Extinction for us at all. Oh, wow, we draw into a Noxious Gearhulk. Let's go. Once Upon a Time from our opponent lets them pick the best creature or land from the top 5 cards of their library to put in their hand. Paradise Druid was their best hit, just a 2-mana 2/1. So not very great draws for our opponent. Now Bomat Courier, not good against a wide board state like we have. I don't have the mana to Gearhulk and move the Maul. If I move the Maul to the Architect, pretty good, but they only have 3 power out anyway, so I just move the Maul to like Spirited Companion here. Play a Woe Strider post-combat. I can play it pre-combat. Doesn't really matter. Attack with everybody. And they're just going to take it all. That's going to be lethal. Oh no, it's 1 damage off. I'm so bad at math. Numbers are not my strong suit. And just another land for our opponent, so we'll get there. Opponent is going to send in the Bomat Courier, though, because they do get 1 more chance. Oops. They get to sacrifice this Bomat Courier and see if they draw anything good off of that. See what their last draw is. And they're going to scoop them up. Whatever it is, it's not good enough. And we're not actually going to be 5-3. Wrote this game off a little early. I was certain we were going to lose there, but a huge recovery from the very nice Orzhov mid-range deck, the black-white mid-range deck. And we are 6-2 now. Very great win rate no matter what happens. Leaving with more gold than we entered with, and yeah, had a great time, so we'll see. We've got a final boss here, win or lose, no matter what happens. Final game of Magic of the night. And here we are in the final boss, a definite keeper here, that turn 3 Adeline we've seen do so much work. We've got great interaction with our Lonely End and our Kaya in the late game. Very happy with this hand. It's a little slow, but we're on the play, which makes up for it. See how things go. There's a Jadar from our opponent. I'm just going to immediately pop that thing out of here. Not have to worry about any Jadar synergies going on. We're going to drop History of Benalia first to get as much power on the board as quickly as possible, because now next turn we can just play Adeline and get a token from her off of attacking with a knight. Opponent is mono black so far, so quite likely they have some kind of removal spell to throw at Adeline here now. They are going to Infernal Grasp the Adeline. At least we do some damage to them with that, and a cut down as well. Lots of very efficient removal to make sure that they stop all this early game damage, and even a Woe Strider for a very good blocker against History of Benalia. But Maul of the Skyclaves being the draw guarantees I still hit for a bunch of damage this turn, and any future turn where they can't blow up this knight. Now we've got a nice flying vigilant first striking threat to guarantee we're chipping away. It kills them in 3 more attacks if they can't get rid of it, so they're going to need to scry well with that Woe Strider, and that is the plan here as they sacrifice their goat and scry a card to the bottom. Field of Ruin from our opponent, and Sorin the Mirthless can produce some flying blockers for our opponent, but those blockers can't stop the first striking knight that we have here, so we're going to send this to Sorin to get this out of the way. Most likely. The mana's a little awkward here, only having 1 swamp. I only get to play 1 spell this turn, and pretty much each turn for that matter. What is the +1 here? Lose life equal to its mana value? We might actually let them keep Sorin and put them on a 3-turn clock instead. I think I'm actually down for that. If I played Life of Toshiro Mizawa and buffed the knight, it would be a 2-turn clock. That's actually an option too. Maybe I should have done that instead. I was thinking doing Woe Strider here, set up our draws, make sure that we hit the mana for Kaya next turn. At this point, because I didn't play Life of Toshiro Umezawa pre-combat, it's the right play. But maybe Life of Toshiro Umezawa pre-combat to try to hit for 6 in the sky was the right play there. Alright, they're going to plus Sorin. Let's see how much damage they take. Just a swamp, no damage to our opponent. Morbid Opportunist is the play, so now whenever creatures die, our opponent gets to draw a card. Alright. Means if I scry with Woe Strider, I give them a full-on card draw. That's probably not actually worth it. And we are lucky enough to immediately just hit the land anyway, so I know I can Kaya now. Worth it to Kaya and kill their flyer when they already kind of just have to chump block? I could Kaya and exile their Opportunist. That seems pretty reasonable. Put them in a position where they're less likely to draw into the removal they need, and they're still dying in 2 attacks in the sky. They are going to go for the chump block this time. They do get to scry with Woe Strider. Oh no, trick. Oh, that's nasty. Lonely End here. That is going to end my knight token. I do get to sack it to scry. Oh, they weren't the starting players, so they gained 2. I always forget about that bonus effect. I was going to say I can counter their life gain by sacking this and scrying 1. I actually should have done it even sooner. I could have countered the life gain from the Lonely End. I knew I could counter the life linking, but I forgot that the Lonely End was going to gain them 2 life as well, so that was a punt. Gave them extra life gain. That's a draw. Good lord. Alright then. Well, that's another thing. I should have sacked this before Massacre Worm hit the board, because it also makes me lose 2 life whenever creatures die. Should have just sacked that for fun. I think we just lose. That was just a heck of a couple draws for our opponent. Yeah, we're just dead now. Alright. I needed to scry away Yorin at this point. Played a little suboptimally, but couldn't beat this. Because I think we played right until the last, turn there. That was where the big punts came in. Before it was just, minor punts. Yeah, no, there's no turning this around at this point. And that's just it. Huge recovery from our opponent. It's going to be 6 and 3 for the first Arena Cube draft. Some tremendously powerful plays. In a lot of these games, we've seen some very swingy games. 6 and 3 it'll be. Take one last look at the game, or one last look at the deck as I log off for the night. Very sweet, black-white mid-range stuff. Everything in here went pretty well. Even Miral did a little bit of work, but I don't think they were that exciting or anything. Elesh Norn was completely busted. Yorion was an overperformer, just even being a 5-mana 4/5 flyer worked pretty well for us. Invoke Justice was pretty much always great, bring the best thing back out of our grave, and make our board state nice and juicy. Luris was always good. Super sweet combo with the Dauntless Bodyguard as well. Adeline was like the best card in the deck, ridiculous stuff there. Restoration of Megandro also great. Everything just did a pretty good job. Even Fateful Absence coming in clutch a lot of those games. So 6-3 it'll be. Super great way to start off the Arena Cubes. Not quite a 7-win run, but more than close enough. We are leaving with more gold than we entered with, and had some pretty fun gameplay. But that is going to end today's video. As always, if you enjoyed this video and you'd like to see more, make sure to like, comment, and subscribe. That'll let the YouTube algorithm know to send you some more of these videos in your recommended feeds. We got tons of Arena Cube drafts on the horizon coming onto the channel. We also have the Arena Cube Arena Open this weekend that I will be playing in. Probably just going to play one time because I don't really like getting super competitive with Arena Cube. I think it's just a pretty fun format I like playing for fun. I think if I tried to really try hard it and played through the Arena Open 3-4 times, I just get frustrated. So just going to be one attempt at the Arena Cube Arena Open Day 1 event this time around. But that'll be happening this weekend. Should be a fun time. And as always, any other draft formats that they put on Arena, we'll be playing them. So spicy stuff in the horizon. I am ready to just be Cuban for quite some time here. So as always, once again, thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you again soon for some more Magic Arena.